Yo, what is up guys, Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So, Anthony Joshua versus Dillian Whyte 2 has now been announced. Goes down on August the 12th, takes place at the O2 Arena in London, and it will be on DAZN pay-per-view. Now, first things first, these days in regards to boxing, I pay for very little because in many of these fights I don't see the value, and placing Anthony Joshua versus Dillian Whyte 2 at a price of £26.99 to me is excessive. Bear in mind, first time around it was £19.99 when, you know, both guys were on the come up, both guys were unbeaten. Since then, Dillian's been knocked out badly a couple of times. Well, 3 times actually, if you actually count the first Joshua fight. Joshua himself's had his ups and downs. That shock loss to Ruiz, back-to-back defeats to Usyk, plus not a great performance against Jermaine Franklin. I think having this fight at a higher price than the original isn't a good look, quite frankly. But again, you know, it's up to people whether they pay for it. I won't be paying for it. Having said that, do I mind the fight? No, I don't mind it at all. Joshua is on the comeback trail, of course. Obviously, he lost those back-to-back fights with Usyk, losing his titles. Following those losses, he obviously linked up with Derek James, his new trainer. They've only had one camp together for the Jermaine Franklin fight. So yeah, I think it was wise for Joshua to take this sort of fight before taking a mega fight. I think he and Derek James need another training camp together to get used to each other, to maybe implement some subtle changes to Joshua's style, etc. I think this fight makes sense because Dillian Whyte is a name. Outside of Joshua and Fury, he's arguably the 3rd biggest heavyweight name in the UK. So I think it makes sense from a business decision. And also, you know, I would say Dillian Whyte poses more risk than Joshua's last opponent, Jermaine Franklin, so I see it as a step in the right direction. I know Franklin, at this point in time, I would argue, is more durable than Dillian Whyte, but he doesn't carry that same threat in regards to power. He's a smart boxer, he can cover up well, defend himself well, but there's not really much coming back in regards to serious power or serious offense. Whereas Dillian Whyte, I think he's certainly declining in regards to durability, things of that nature, and I think he's just declining overall. But he does have a powerful left hook, he can throw a powerful right hand, he's got a pretty hard jab. If he connects flush, he can hurt you. As we saw in the first Joshua fight, he buzzed Joshua in that 2nd round. So all things considered, I think this fight makes sense for where Joshua's at in his career right now. Dillian is beatable. He's declining, but he's still a top 10 heavyweight with some sort of credibility. He poses some sort of threat, even if it's a puncher's chance. And that will be interesting. Joshua's not fought a puncher in a little while. Jermaine Franklin wasn't a puncher. Usyk's not a puncher. Kubrat Pulev wasn't a puncher. Who was the last puncher Anthony Joshua fought? I would say even Andy Ruiz isn't a massive puncher. I don't class him as a heavyweight puncher. He's got decent pop, but his stoppages mainly come from punches in bunches and combinations. I say Dillian Whyte is the hardest puncher Anthony Joshua's fought since Povetkin. So maybe that could play some sort of a factor. Maybe that could, you know, make Joshua go inside his own head kind of thing. Because we've speculated that about Joshua for a long time now. At least I have. I think this guy is overthinking his fights way too much. And in the Jermaine Franklin fight, that made somewhat sense because obviously he's with a new trainer. He's working on new things, etc. I don't want to see that re-emerge in this fight with Dillian Whyte because that's when you give Dillian a chance to land one of those shots. When you're overthinking, when you're being too cautious, that's when one of those left hooks could swing in and maybe cause a problem. Because again, I don't think that cautious jab first style really suits Joshua all that much. He can do it against a guy like Jermaine Franklin, but even in that fight he would switch off for moments and he'd allow Franklin to kind of counter Joshua with his left hand. I don't think he can be doing that against Dillian Whyte. I think he needs to be a little more forceful on his approach. Keep it long, box behind the jab, but double up on the jab, make it hard, and fire straight punches right down the middle against Dillian Whyte. He's there to be hit, he's there to be caught. And I don't think Dillian's chin is as good as it once was. Ultimately, the way I feel about this matchup is I think this fight can be as easy or as hard as Joshua makes it. If Joshua's on his P's and Q's, I think he can make this fight relatively easy and destructive, to be honest. I really do. But it's whether we get that Joshua in the ring, and that's what makes Dillian an interesting opponent, because at least we know there's a semblance of power there in his punches. I think this is an acceptable fight for Joshua, given where he's at in his career, given he's on the comeback trail. The criticism I would have is the pay-per-view price, £26.99, whatever it is. I think that's too pricey for a fight of this magnitude. Should just be the regular old prices of $19.99. I think then it would have made more sense. But aside from pay-per-view costs, I don't have a problem with this fight. And also, it's interesting to say, Eddie Hearn has confirmed that a potential Deontay Wilder fight is all set should Joshua win this fight. And that would go down in December, if we are to believe Eddie Hearn. Now, if that is the case, then listen, this would have been a good year for Joshua in regards to, being active and having fights of consequence, because, yeah, Dillian's not the guy he was, but this fight's going to generate interest. It's going to be relatively interesting. And should he win, if he fights Deontay Wilder at the end of the year, then, listen, fair play to Anthony Joshua. Fair play to him. And quite frankly, I just think this serves him well going into that potential fight, because he fought in April against Jermaine Franklin, got 10 rounds in. He's fighting Dillian in August. I'm assuming he wins that fight. I think he will do, and I think he'll knock out Dillian. And then going into a December fight with Deontay Wilder, Joshua would have been nice and active, more active than Deontay Wilder himself. So that's definitely good preparation for a potential Wilder fight. But yeah, I don't mind this fight. I'm not making a song and dance about it, but it's acceptable in my opinion. It's acceptable, barring the pay-per-view price. But anyway, share your thoughts below. Been your guy Delboy. Peace.